Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. Now, I only made 3 videos in the month of April. The first one was the quarter one wrap-up video that I do where I kind of go over my resolutions and my reading stats for the year so far. And then the other 2 are book reviews, which were of Citizen by Claudia Rankine and This Side of Home by Renée Watson. Really enjoyed both of those books. Check those videos out if you haven't already. But all of those videos basically went up within the first week of April, I believe. And then I haven't really posted a video on here since then. I don't know if any of you noticed. I've been making videos over on the Book Riot channel, which happens once a week on Wednesdays because that's my job and they are paying me to do that. Life just got really complicated and busy and exhausting, and if I had free time I didn't really feel like making videos. I didn't really have the brain power for it. I was also not really feeling books in the beginning of the month, and I felt like that just sort of overflowed into my video making. So I decided to just go on a little bit of a hiatus. It was kind of nice to have a break from this. Not that I don't love doing this, but I think just some time off was very much needed. It was like a little bit of a vacation for me. And now that I've had some time off, I've also had time to think about how to handle my channel. I realized that I was getting way too overwhelmed doing this and the Book Riot stuff, and I'm not going to stop doing this, but what I'm going to do is just change my own personal goals to be a once a week video maker on here, and then I can do 1 video a week on Book Riot, because 3 videos a week when you have like a full-time job and other responsibilities is a lot. And also because I want to make Book Riot a priority, I'm moving my video that I put up every week to be on Friday, so that way I have plenty of time to work on it and I can make sure that a video goes up every week and it'll be less likely that I'll miss a week. So yeah, if you are someone who knew that every Tuesday and Thursday I had a video going up, change your schedule around or your brain notification and know that now I'll be uploading videos on here on Fridays. And then a couple other quick announcements. I started doing a tiny letter, which is basically just like a newsletter. So if you're someone who likes getting emails, you can always sign up for that. There'll be a link in the description down below. On my Tumblr for a little while, I was doing this thing called 5 on Fridays, where I would just talk about 5 things that happened or I read or I saw or just I wanted to talk about specifically from that week. So what I decided to do is just turn that into a tiny little newsletter thing. I don't really talk about books on there. I kind of use that as a space to talk about things besides books. Not that I don't ever don't talk about books on there, but it's not always one of the points that I talk about. I kind of just do like little points about what's going on in my life or just interesting things I've been reading. If you were someone who liked my Friday favorites back in the day when I used to do Friday favorites videos, then this would probably be something you'd be interested in, because it's kind of along the same lines. It's things that I like that I kind of just want to share with other people. And the other crazy, fun, exciting thing that I get to officially announce is that I am going to be going to VidCon this year and I will be on the BookTube panel. I am very surprised that I was asked to be on the panel. Not that I don't think I deserve it, but more like I just know that there are other people out there who are more popular than me. But I'm very, very grateful and very, very honored to be considered, and this is my first time going to VidCon, so that'll be exciting. So let me know if you guys are going to be there, if you'll be attending the panel. Come say hi, or if you see me wandering around Los Angeles or the convention center, Anaheim, it's in Anaheim, come say hi, because I'd love to meet some of you guys. It'll be exciting and fun and slightly terrifying. Now, for the reason that we're here, books. So let's talk about the books that I read this month. So the first book that I technically finished in the month of April was Born Standing Up by Steve Martin. I listened to this as an audiobook, and I actually just finished this on April 1st. I was mostly listening to this in the month of March, obviously. But this is a memoir about a part of Steve Martin's life, particularly him just like growing up as a kid and starting to get into comedy. This was a really interesting read. The audiobook is narrated by Steve Martin himself, which is always really nice, and clearly he knows how to deliver a good story. But he is a really good writer, and I think it's interesting to have his perspective and sort of his take on comedy and the entertainment industry and even just like general life things. He's a very intelligent person. But if you are someone who likes Steve Martin, I definitely recommend this. But I think this is also just a good memoir if you like memoirs about creative people, because I feel like they all just give you a different perspective, because there isn't really like one straight path into the entertainment field or the creative fields, and I feel like just getting as many perspectives and point of views on that world is always, at least for me, really educational as well as interesting. The next book that I read was The Truth According to Us by Annie Barrows. Annie Barrows actually helped like co-author the Guernsey literary potato peel books. I don't remember the exact title of the... Yeah, Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society. I never read those books, but they're like super popular. They're very popular with like book club. I ended up receiving this book as part of a review program that I do. It was okay. I was kind of just meh about it. This takes place during the Depression in a small town in West Virginia. This woman who's from like a prominent family, her dad basically just like kicks her out and makes her get a job, and so she ends up writing about this small town for like this national book program. So she ends up boarding with this family in the small town, and she ends up learning a lot about the town itself and the people in it, and especially this family. And this family sort of has this mystery that's surrounding them, and the truth ends up becoming uncovered. This book is like 500 pages long, and it easily could have just been like 300. Some of the characters in here are super interesting, but I feel like a lot of this is just not well developed. There's also a lot of material in here that could have been mined to make it more interesting and to make the historical aspects seem more historical and well fleshed out, but it just felt like everything was very just surface level. And I feel like everything surrounding the mystery in this book is so obvious. Like, it's so clear from like the beginning what happened and what the truth is. I don't know. I just was pretty meh about the whole thing. I think I gave it like a 2.5 out of 5 stars because I was just like, there's parts of it that are like really interesting, and I think this would be another good book club book just because I think there's a lot to discuss in here, but I just did not enjoy the experience of this book. The next book that I read was Scarlet Undercover by Jennifer Latham. This is a young adult mystery novel, and I received this as a review from NetGalley. The main character of this book is being described as like a Muslim Veronica Mars, and there's definitely some truth to that aspect. The main character is a teenage girl. I think she's like 16 or 17 years old. She's solving like sort of like petty crimes on the side while she's also trying to figure out what happened to her parents. She's very strong and sarcastic. She thinks she can do more than she really can, and she tries to be as independent as possible before realizing that she actually needs help from other people. All of the traits that Veronica Mars has. The fact that she is a Muslim character definitely plays a role in this book. It uses a lot of terminology that if you are in that faith you would know a little bit about, but it also includes a glossary in the back, which is really nice. So if you don't know what they're talking about or you can't pick it up based on context clues, you can always look it up. I really enjoyed this. I feel like this would be a really good first book in a series because I feel like the characters in here are just like barely scratching the surface. Like, this was a really good introduction to this world and these characters, and I would love to see more of them and to see it fleshed out a little bit more. So if you like young adult books, if you like mystery books, or you're looking for something that's a little bit different, I definitely recommend this one. And then I read Jane by Patricia Park, and I'm pretty sure I pronounced that name incorrectly. I apologize. This book is supposed to be a contemporary retelling of Jane Eyre, and it is, but it's a very loose retelling. You are following Jane, who is a mixed race. She is half Korean, half American. She is orphaned, and she is living with her aunt and uncle and her cousins who live in Flushing, New York. Her aunt and uncle are really overwhelming, and she really wants to get out of the house, so she ends up taking sort of a nannying job for a couple that lives in Brooklyn, and then she basically just like falls in love with the guy, and a bunch of stuff happens, and there's so much more that happens in this book than that, but that's the aspect I feel like that most closely resembles the Jane Eyre storyline. I really like this book because I think it does a really good job of taking that storyline and putting it in contemporary culture, and the author changes enough of it so it makes sense in the modern day, but keeps enough of like the essence of Jane Eyre, if that makes sense. The parts that I personally really like the most were the aspects where Jane is sort of searching to figure out her identity. Because she's mixed race, she doesn't completely fit in with the Korean kids. She doesn't really feel totally American all the time, and she's looking for this balance and just trying to figure out where she fits and where her place is. I think the exploration of the Korean American family, as well as the exploration of just Koreans in general, there's an aspect of the book that takes place in South Korea, is all really interesting. But overall, I was really engaged with the storyline and I really enjoyed it. There are a couple of things here and there that I feel like could could have been better, but this is a debut novel and I feel like for a debut it was pretty strong. So if you like modern retellings, or if you like Jane Eyre and you want to see a modern retelling of it, I definitely recommend this one because I feel like it's not just like a straightforward retelling, which is something that I really liked, and there's enough changes and twists in here that it'll keep you entertained. You won't be able to necessarily know exactly where the story is going to go. Then I read The Martian by Andy Weir, and this was just such a fun book. This book came out last year and it was like all the rage all over everywhere on the internet, it seems like. In case you guys aren't aware, you are following Mark, who is an astronaut. Him and his team end up going to Mars, and while they're on Mars a big dust storm happens and Mark ends up getting separated from the rest of the crew, and they leave Mark behind because they believe that he's dead, but it turns out that Mark actually survived the situation. So now his goal is to figure out how to survive on Mars, as well as to figure out how to get in touch with either his crew or NASA or someone to let them know that he is still alive. I really like this book because it's just like really engaging. It's very plot driven. The story just keeps going. You don't want to put the book down. I really liked Mark's voice. He's very sarcastic, very funny, although sometimes it doesn't feel completely realistic because you would think that someone who's been through an event like this and who has to spend a significant amount of time in isolation would feel slightly more downtrodden, but he doesn't. So if you just like ignore that aspect of it, then it's fine. But if you examine it too closely, then you'll probably find this a little bit irritating. But again, I felt like when I was reading this book, I had nothing but enjoyment for it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because I think it's just like a fun read, and sometimes you just need a fun read. Then I read What If? Serious Scientific Answers to Absurd Hypothetical Questions by Randall Munroe. Randall Munroe is a former NASA person, and he ended up quitting his job and he became a cartoonist on the internet. His website is xkcd.com, which a lot of people are aware of. He's very smart, very funny, and this book is basically him just answering random questions in a very serious and scientific way, just like the title says. I listened to this on audiobook, and Will Wheaton actually narrates it, and he is like the perfect narrator for a book like this because he just has the perfect like nerd voice that's so serious but is also very sarcastic and silly, and I feel like his voice and Randall Munroe's voice are just like perfect for each other. There were certain points in the book where I could feel myself sort of like zoning out because I couldn't completely keep up with everything he was talking about. He goes so far deep into every question, like he answers every question, but he like explains it so thoroughly and also explores other possibilities within each question, and sometimes it just got too sciencey for me, so that's just a warning. But I feel like in general I just really enjoyed this book. The best questions were always the weird and worrying questions. So yeah, if you're someone who's just like slightly nerdy or a very curious person, or you like running random hypothetical scenarios, then this is definitely a book worth picking up. And then the final thing that I read this month was Alex and Anita Volume 2 by Jonathan Luna and Sarah Vaughn. This comic just gets better and better with every volume. I really liked Volume 1 when I read it, but this one is just like significantly better in my opinion. I think it's just because the storyline is developing, the characters are developing, the stakes are being raised, and I'm very, very excited to see what happens in Volume 3. I see like tweets from people who are reading this comic issue to issue, and they are just talking about how heartbreaking and just amazing this comic is, so I'm very excited for Volume 3. So yeah, that is everything that I read. If you read any of these books, feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know what you guys thought of them, or if you have any questions about them, you can always leave that down in the comment section as well. Or if you have any comments or questions about any of the things I talked about at the beginning of the video, feel free to leave that down in the comment section as well. Or if you're going to VidCon, leave a comment to let me know if I'll see you there. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.